your host, Joshua Church.
Hey everybody, so continuing on in our 80s theme and summer of 80s here in, Movie Dawgs channel and Quick Bites. I'm going to do a quick little chit chat about what it was like being an 80s kid, the daily kind of life of a latchkey 80s kid. Because it's something that's become sort of like a relic of the era. Something that, now that I have two boys, it's like watching them and going, man, they don't even know like how different that was for us. So like if it was a school day, you'd wake up, your parents wake you up, tell you to have breakfast or whatever. You'd hop on your bike or walk to elementary school. Like elementary, not middle, not high school, elementary. Walk or ride a bike through town, through busy streets and intersections and highways. We would ride to school. Get on our bike, throw our backpack on, ride about a half a mile, maybe a mile to get to elementary school. So like when I was a kid, I grew up in a little tiny town called Williston. The thing was, Williston was really small, but we could get all the way through town pretty much in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, maybe 30 on a bike. Get all the way over to school. So if it was school day, you're getting to school on your own. And if you're getting back home, you're doing the same thing. Now, I have distinct memories about being, first grade, second grade, ride my bike home, walking home, hit the diner, because it was like an old, 50s diner where you could stop and, I'd read the cartoons in the newspaper, the comic strips. And there was an old lady who worked there. She'd make me a cheeseburger or something. My grandpa worked at a full service gas station at the four-way in that town. It was like a major intersection. And I'd go and say hi to him, sometimes hang out for a bit. And then at the four-way was the main little downtown area for the town. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's almost weird because I grew up in the 80s, but it almost feels like 50s-esque. Because there was an old-time barbershop where the guys wore the white outfits and the buttons. They had glass bottle Cokes at an old Coke machine. Could stop by there. A lot of times I would go around and hunt, glass bottles so I could trade them. And a lot of times they would help me out, and I'd give them, they'd give me all their glass bottles because they didn't really care, and I'd take them and get cashed in somewhere. I think at the gas stations and stuff to get paid for those bottles. But yeah, I'd go there. There was an old hardware store that had been there for 100 years or something. It was really, classic, and, they had candy, and they had all kind of cool stuff and comic books. But the thing was, when you were a kid back then, downtowns had stuff like that. Arcades, small mom and pop movie theaters that had 2 screens or one. Old, hardware stores and drugstores that had been in families forever, where people could, especially before my time, it was malts and candy and stuff, and people get their medicine. Something that you would see out of It's a Wonderful Life and stuff. Before Walmart came and all the department stores and CVS and Walgreens and destroyed small town America and made it to where everything was corporatized. But back then, it was very normal to... Oh, come on, you throw your turn signal on at the last second. But, sorry, I'm driving. But it was very normal to go to a small town and see all that stuff. And local gas stations had pinball machines and arcade machines. And kids would spend hours at their local 7-Eleven or Little Champ or whatever, playing, Street Fighter 2. And, you had well, I'll talk about mom and pop video stores here later. That'll be another episode. But they had those. You had video stores. You had all kinds of stuff. And it made it, I mean, granted, this was pre-internet. This was pre-video games really being home, like available outside of Atari. And so, yeah, it was just a different time. And more kids were on the street. So you needed, like, stuff for kids to do. And there was a ton. It was not uncommon pretty much every time you hit a gas station to see like a gang of children hanging outside the gas station, candy cigarettes hanging off their lip, drinking a root beer, trying to pretend like they're adults, right? It was normal. And, you know, kids got in fights, kids got into shenanigans, kids, you know, like we had a huge pit in town that we used to like climb in and stuff, and it wasn't fenced off until a kid died, and then it was. But it was like a different time. I mean, back then, you know, we were kind of left to our own devices. You know, you played outside with your friends, you played with toys, you read comic books, you rolled them up and put them in your back of your pocket, you know, you rode your bike everywhere. You played football and baseball with your friends, like all the time. It's just a different era. I mean, video games, whenever video games kind of started getting into the home market later, late 80s, early 90s, you still had like gangs of kids that would get together and go over to their friend's house and play Duck Hunt or play Mario or whatever. And it's crazy to think back and think of how different life is for kids now and how they don't have a lot of that stuff. Now, granted, it's safer. Like, it was far more common for kids to get hurt pretty bad back then, you know, or die. But like, I don't know. I know it's nostalgic. Maybe it's just me, but I never felt like I was in danger. I never felt like I was really bad off. I did get hit by a car once, and that was kind of bad. But like, other than that, for the most part, good memories of doing that. Hustling about town, dragging my you know, lawnmower around with like a gas can, doing people's lawns for a couple extra bucks, or collecting aluminum cans to go trade them in for extra money. We were always hustling to get some more quarters and some more dollars to buy video games or play video games or buy comic books or buy toys. You had all those great toys on the shelf, and unlike today, you didn't have a bunch of grown-ups like fighting you over Pokemon cards and stuff like that. So it was just like a different vibe. But yeah, life of an 80s kid, very different from the life of a 90s kid or a 2000s kid or even now. And you know, it's a weird time to think about. It's weird to think about like your parents letting you watch rated R movies. And every kid's movie had drug references and cussing and sexual references and all these like kind of crazy stuff, but it was like a totally different era. But yeah, anyway, do you have any stories? Do you have any nice little anecdotes, anything to add? Please come in the comments and say something. But yeah, if you don't remember the 80s, you just remember from like watching Stranger Things or whatever, that's good too. You can, you know, miss that. But I mean, look, the way I look at it is this era is not impossible to achieve. It's not impossible to have some vibes like that for your kids in your life. You can still kind of replicate some of it. And I know there are some cool beach towns that have like the same kind of vibe with all the little shops and, you know, antique stores and you know, that kind of feel, and arcades. And you can kind of have that vibe. And even now today, it's just not everywhere, which is a shame. But anywho, I appreciate you guys, and keep going on this rad 80s journey. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye. Hey, like and subscribe. Be sure to check out more of the content on the Movie Dawgs channel. All the reviews and cool remarks and cool guests like me, Josh Church, the owner of River Monster Comics. We are in Denellen, Florida, so if you're ever in the area, come by and check out the shop. Get some cool nerd stuff, comics, pops, toys, whatever. And swing by and just have some cool conversations about movies and all things pop culture. We appreciate you. See you soon.